My name is April and I'm from Tiger Solar Power. I'm just here today to run you through the Alpha Monitoring Platform and how you can best utilize the desktop platform to get the most information out of your system. So let's start at the main page. So on the left here, we have a fleet of systems that we can keep an eye on. So we're just taking one for an example today. So coming over to the right-hand panel is a very basic power graph. There are better ways to follow your power flow, including on your monitoring app on your phone. It will show you a real-time power flow, including power coming into your home, draw from the grid, and where your battery is going in terms of if it's supplying your house, being exported to the grid, that kind of thing. Coming across to the first panel here is your power diagram. So this is probably the most useful page on the web interface. So this shows you an overview of everything that your system is doing. So including your generation, your consumption, your battery state of charge, how much you fed into the grid, and any grid consumption if that has occurred. So the numbers within the circles are your real-time performance. So what your system is doing at this second. The numbers below are your cumulative totals for the entire day. So coming down further is the actual graph. So on this site, the customer has an Alpha battery installed and they have solar that feeds directly into the Alpha battery. That's DC coupled solar, as well as another solar system that works in conjunction with the Alpha battery. So very basically, the key at the bottom will illustrate what each color represents on the graph. You can click and unclick them to remove them from the graph so it is easier to read. So essentially from left to right, green is your battery state of charge. So we can see that this battery was depleted overnight and then charged up again throughout the day. The blue is the load in the home. So not much house load going on throughout this day. Your energy storage system is the solar that is paired with your battery. On grid system is your other solar system if you have a secondary solar system installed in the home. And the feed in is what has been exported to the grid. Not much grid consumption, so that is what you have drawn in from the grid. You would see that reading be higher in some cases if you are needing quite a bit of power outside of what your solar and battery can support. Quite common in winter if we have sort of a cloudy, stormy day and your battery and solar aren't quite keeping up with the energy you're using in the home. This doesn't apply to all customers, but if you do have that dual solar system set up, you can actually review them as a single PV value. Sometimes it's a bit simpler to look at it that way. You can see the total cumulative amount of solar. So you can see this one here, that the customer tops out at about 8-9 kilowatts of solar between the solar that's added to their battery, as well as the solar that is basically freestanding. I'll navigate back to this one just so we can see all the values there. So it is pretty normal to see that your battery depletes of a morning. Usually you'll see it bottom out sort of in the early hours of the morning. Again, we're looking at this system during winter, so not quite as much solar performance as you would see on a beautiful sunny day in summer. If that was the case, we would probably expect to see this system charge up even more quickly. So you can navigate back throughout the system's history as well. So up in the right-hand corner here, we can navigate back throughout our days. So you can see a full day's generation here. Solar starts up in the morning, charges up the battery, and then coasts along at its export limit throughout the day until we would assume the customer gets home at about sort of 6 p.m.-ish and then starts to dip into that battery capacity to get them through the night. Again, you can select any day throughout the system's history to view how its performance was, and you can coast along the performance graph to see what it was doing at any one moment. So incredibly handy. You also have a statistical diagram, a little bit less user-friendly and useful to see the system's overall performance, but it does give you monthly and yearly totals at a glance rather than having to wade through every single day. So you can see the overall PV performance in a month. A view like this is handy when you're comparing quarterly or monthly bills. You can see overall how much your system has generated, how much you've fed into the grid, so how much feed-in tariff you can expect to see on your bill, and you can compare those to the numbers on the bill in terms of how much grid usage. So not a lot of grid consumption, for example, in March of this year for this customer, only about 46 kilowatts, excuse me. Another feature that can assist you, especially during the winter months in an Alpha battery, can be setting up charge windows. So if we go back to our pile diagram here, this customer is performing quite well. But if, for example, you are one of those customers who sees that potentially your battery is depleted by 11 p.m. midnight and isn't quite making it through to support you through the morning rush, what you can do is set up charge windows. So you can elect to draw power from the grid when it's cheaper, usually between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. You're going to be paying about half for that amount of power than needing to draw it from the grid in the afternoon if your battery charge isn't keeping up. So that can be edited in the system setup, charging, discharging settings. You enable the grid charge of the battery, set your charging period. It is in 24-hour time. Usually a couple of hours is sufficient to get you through the morning, and then the solar does the rest throughout the day. So for example, we maybe select up until 3 a.m. Charging cutoff at 100%. We don't need it to be any higher than that. And then you would save. If you would like us to consult you on setting up charging windows, if you're not quite seeing the performance in these gloomy winter days from your battery, feel free to give us a call at Tiger Solar Power and we'll be happy to assist. You can get an even closer reading on the performance of your Alpha battery as well through the data analysis. So if we click in here, it will draw you a performance day. If you come down to UINVL1, that's actually your grid voltage. So generally we want the grid voltage to always sit below 254 volts. This is a good one if you see sawtoothing performance on your solar. So very up, down. One moment it's producing 2 kilowatts, the next it's 5, then it's back to 1 kilowatt. Sometimes that's caused by high incoming grid voltage. Now, this is usually more of a problem in the summer when there is a lot of solar power being fed into the grid. If you do see that performance, it's a good idea to come and read this value and see where that voltage is peaking out. So you can see usually it's highest about midday, obviously the most peak solar time of the day. This customer is peaking out at about 250 volts, which is perfectly fine. Once you do start seeing grid voltage coming up to that 254, it is actually an inbuilt function of solar inverters, battery systems to ramp themselves down to protect their internal workings. So you will see the system production fall. If you do see that voltage in excess of 254 volts, it's a good idea to reach out to us. It is something that needs to be raised with SA Power Networks as it is a fault on the grid. Sometimes transformer settings in your area need to be revised, and it's a project that needs to be raised with SA Power directly. Of course, always reach out to us at Tiger Solar Power. We're always happy to help you. Going on the desktop app, you could also see warranty information. So information about when your system was installed. This will differ system to system, but as we ran through at the beginning, the power diagram is really your best friend in monitoring your system's overall performance. Every piece of information is parceled out for you really nicely, and you do have that up to the minute information. If you do see any underperformance or you would like us to do an analysis on your system's performance at any stage, again, reach out to us. We can pull reports from this online data and we can give you a system health check essentially from the data that we pull. It's also a good thing to note, you always want to see your system in green here. So that means the system is online, up and running, working. If this is ever red or grey, this little symbol here, that means your system is either offline or in fault. If the system's offline, so in the grey status, it means that it's lost connection to your home internet. We do have Wi-Fi guides available on our internet. We do have Wi-Fi guides available on our website for you to access to reconnect your system so you get that monitoring access back. If the system is in red, there is a fault with the system. At that point, it is time to reach out to us at Tiger and we can have a look into what's going on and assist you further. If you do ever have any questions or would like a more in-depth run through of this, see any odd readings, or would just like a bit of a crash course, always feel free to reach out to us at Tiger. We're more than happy to run you through. Thank you so much.